Welcome to my shop again this morning. Today I thought I would work on a little piece that I came up with a long time ago of a pinto horse and in full flight, and he's running over the top of his name Cochise, and I sort of named him after the character in Bonanza there, Little Joe. He had a horse, a pinto, by the name of Cochise, and thought I would use that name on here, although it isn't exactly like his horse. It gives a little bit of adventure to it. And what I'm going to do is cut this out, of course, as a sign, but what I'd like to try doing is cutting out the little white patches on the dark horse to make the pinto spots. And what I'm going to do is cut them as what I call a raised inlay. So after I cut this out, I'm going to cut it at a 1/8 of an inch angle to the left on my scroll saw. And when I get done cutting, what I'm hoping is that the piece will just raise up a little bit, and then I can glue it in place so that it's a sort of a raised type of inlay. And I can make those, I can paint those white or just leave them the way they are, and stain or paint the actual sign a darker color. Could go either way, actually. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to do this using a piece of pine, which I've trimmed down to, let's see what it says here. I'm going to change this from fractions to inches, okay, and we'll see how thick it is. I've thinned it down. Alright, it's 45 inches. So we'll go with that. I mean, you could make it a 1/2 inch, probably be fine too, but I wanted to thin it out a little bit so that it'd be easy to work with these inlays that I'm going to be doing. Alright, first thing we're going to do, of course, is what we always do, and it is take our pattern out of the way and take our board, and we'll put our trusty old masking tape on here. Okay, I'll put a piece of paper towel down there and take our pinto and we'll gloss up the back of this pattern. By the way, if you want this pattern, you can download it from my website, I mean my Etsy store, and it sells for a mere $3.50, but you'll have the exact pattern to work with. And the cost of it, of course, goes to sponsoring my channel here and other necessities that I have to pay for. And you'll also get with it a bunch of other patterns, free patterns, miscellaneous type patterns, which you'll probably find a good use for over time. As I do with all my newer patterns, I give this batch of free patterns, and they're all different from other previous batches too. So if you collect them over time, you're going to have quite a storehouse of patterns to work from. Alright, just paste that down as we always do. And what I'm going to do is do a test cut over on this side here first when I do cut it. And we're going to drill some little entry holes alongside of these patches, which we're going to want to raise and lower, obviously. So we're going to use a real small drill bit to do that. I think it's a 1/16. I think it's not sure. But I'm going to do that first and get it ready to cut out. Okay, that cuts out the holes that I'm going to need to do the patches on here. We need a real tiny drill for that. And now I'm going to just drill some regular size holes in the other part, and we'll be able to be ready for cutting on the scroll saw. Okay, I'm down here under my Excalibur scroll saw. I'm going to turn the knob here, and we're going to move the head so that it dips to the left about 8 degrees. So let's try that. Let's see what happens. You can see here, I'm trying to hold the camera at the same time as doing this, so I don't know how this is going to work. But it looks, alright, it looks like it's about 8 degrees right there. And tighten up the knob again. So we've got a little bit of a bend here to our head, and we'll do our cutting at that angle to see what happens. Okay, I drilled a little hole here for the saw blade to go through to do a test cut. And what I'm going to do is just sort of improvise a little cut piece. Remember, this is angled now at 8 degrees to the left, and I'm going to try going in a counterclockwise fashion to see how this does. Well, I gotta first of all tighten things up here, otherwise we aren't going anywhere. I'm using a number 5 reverse tooth blade. Okay, well, you can see right now that this is not going to work because we're going in the wrong direction apparently. So we're going to have to do this again because it comes out the top. I don't want it to come out the top. It'll dip down below the bottom, but I want it to come out the top. So what I'm going to do is drill another hole here. Okay, I've drilled another hole for the blade. This time we'll cut in a clockwise fashion and see if that makes a difference. I think it probably will, but I'm not sure, so let's do that. Okay, now that one goes right through the bottom, which is probably what we're looking for. And let me get this in camera view here so you can see it. When you push it up, though, it only comes to that point, which is what we want. That's going to be our raised spot on the horse. So what we have to do is cut it 8 degrees, set the head at 8 degrees to the left, and then we cut in a clockwise fashion around. We cut in a clockwise fashion around the outside of the area that we want to cut out and make a spot on the horse. Okay, I think we got it down now, so why don't we give it a try? Okay, we're going to cut one of the spots out here. Here we go. Okay, that was the last spot I had to cut. What I'm going to do now is, I've got a little eye here I want to just sort of outline. I'm going to do it right from here. So here we go. Okay, show you how that eye looks. It's not too bad. There's a little bit of a break there, and you got the raised part there too. Okay, I can show you how this little eye piece looks after you cut it out and you raise up the spot. That's what it looks like, a little eye underneath there. So that'll be good to have. Okay, now the rest of this we're going to just cut out all the other parts. Okay, we're back here now. We can I've brought the angle of the head back to 0, so it's straight up and down at 90 degrees, and we can now use the same blade to cut out all the other little internal pieces and then cut out the exterior. I think I might have lost the last part of that video, but hopefully I didn't know when I get this thing edited. But here's the finished product anyways. We got the entire Cochise cut out right now. Peel this tape off. Alright, looks good. Now, the pieces we've got, we're going to peel those off too. And those are going to remain, I think, probably that color rather than paint them white. White might make it look a little artificial. I might end up leaving it like this. We'll see how it goes. That I think was just a scrap piece that I did. And we've got this one here, which goes up here, I believe. Almost like putting a puzzle back together. And that one goes up in there. This one, I'll just turn this over to do it. This one goes in there. This one goes in here. And this one goes right there. Okay, now you'll flip it back and see. Alright, you get an idea of where those spots are going to be on the horse. We'll just bring it in here a little closer so you can see it. We're going to stain the rest of this, I think, a a dark color, darker than those anyways, so that they stand out. And, wait a minute, we're missing a piece. I hope it didn't fall on the floor. You know, when something falls on the floor here, it disappears forever. This is not the piece. Okay. Alright, I'm going to have to search and see if I can find that. Hope I haven't lost it. Okay, I did find that other piece. It was sitting on the scroll saw. So I've got this all pieced together here. Now, what I'd like to do is take it over to the belt sander and sand this out nice and smooth, and then probably do it on the mop sander too to round over the edges on everything. So I'm going to do that now. Well, as you can see, if you don't hold on to these pieces tightly enough, they take off like a shot across the room. And fortunately, I was able to find that. Okay, when I'm doing a project like this, I like to use all the wood that I can. So I've got the outline of the horse that we've cut out. What I'd like to do now is make this into a base that I could put the stamp sign on. It'll have a little bit of the outline of the horse underneath it, and the sign, of course, sitting on top of it. And it's okay to have a big opening like this. It works out very nicely. Nice horse type image in there. So what we'll do is we'll round off these edges and get it ready. All I'm doing here is improvising the cut. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but it'll give us a nice little base to put the sign on when we're done. Okay, here's the start of our base. What I'm going to do is go over and round over the edges here and sand this all down, and I'll come back when I have that finished and show you what it looks like. Okay, we got the pieces all nicely smoothed out on the sander and rounded over on the edges, so I think we're about ready to do some painting on this. And what we're going to do is we're going to do I think a stain for the horse, and we'll leave these pieces the way they are. If we have a dark stain, those will be a whiter color on the image. I don't really want to paint them white because it's a little artificial that way. So let's see what I got for stain. We'll go over to the staining area and see if we can do that. Okay, I'm over in my so-called staining area, And we got a little stain here called Special Walnut. I'm going to finish it up. There's only a little bit left in the can. I'm going to see what I can do. Hope I got enough for the sign. And we're going to take this and with a paper towel, we're going to just rub it down. Here we go. Give our horse a nice brown finish. This maple, the pine ought to stain pretty nicely. Usually does. Okay, looks pretty good there. It's going to have to dry a little bit now before we can use that again. And we'll get back to it later on, and we'll piece in our little bits of spots for the horse. You could technically, I suppose, even just leave it up like that if you wanted to go without replacing those, but that's what our goal is, so we're going to do that a little later on. Let me get rid of this stuff. Okay, everything is pretty well dried now. Let this stay overnight. And we're ready for assembly here. Now what I've got is, of course, our horse framework here and all the little spot pieces that are going to be put in. I got a base that I made from the offshoot of the cut pieces for the horse. And I also cut another heavier blank and stained it a sort of a walnut color. I'm going to use that as a heavy base for it. So to assemble this, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little piece of paper here. Just get some paper. And I'm going to spread some of this super glue on it. Won't need a lot. Just a little bit. I have a toothpick. Break the end off so you have a wider surface to work with. And we're going to assemble these now. Now this is going to go, this bigger piece is going to go in there like that. But we want it to stay in there, so what we're going to do is going to put a little bit of glue all around the outer edges and near the bottom, where it's going to expand as it goes through. And these little pieces of super glue will hold it in place. It takes a few minutes for that to dry, so it's not going to be a problem if we just put it in there like that for now. Gonna have to work a little bit speedy though. Okay. Drops on there, and it's starting to get stuck up with this. Not a good idea to get it on your hands. You can avoid it. Do it again. Might want to force them down a little bit because you want them to jut out on the other side. And we'll put a little more glue down here. To do these last couple of pieces. It's going to jut out just a little bit. It doesn't have to be too pronounced. I need a little bit of super glue to hold it in place. Okay, I think we've got them all in there now. We'll just prop that up to test it out. Alright, looks pretty good. Starting to look like a nice Pinto. Now, the next thing we want to do is take our, get rid of this stuff first so I don't get all stuck up on it. Take our regular wood glue, tight bond, and put a little sparingly on the bottom. That. Spread it with your thumb or finger or index finger or your toes or whatever you want to use. Get it on there, and then we'll just sort of eyeball this. And I'll wipe that off of there. So a little bit of the head is showing in the vase. Okay, got it. And then the final step, we're going to take our heavy vase and we're going to put some glue down on it. We're going to have our other section sitting. This will give it a nice heavy base for it to sit on. It's a rather light piece right now. I'll just sit that down on top there, where we want it. Okay, I got a little bit of miscalculation here. What I'm going to do is take a toothpick. These always come in handy if you keep a container of those down in your shop. Toothpicks are always very handy. Go down inside there and clean out some of that glue. There we go. That's good. It'll probably disappear over time when it dries anyways, but well, actually that's easier. Hasn't quite dried yet. Alright, now you put that back down on top. Okay, looks pretty good. Take these clamps, put them down on top here, hold it in place, not like that. Okay, hold it in place like that. Gonna need another one for that. Actually, I would prefer to have it go right on that one. Put that down there. On top. There. That'll hold both of them down. On this side, take quite an expansion. But I think we can do it. Okay, good. clean up the residue here. Get as little as the booze showing as possible. Alright, good. Okay, now we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to blast it with a coating or two of clear spray. And this ought to come out looking pretty good when we're done. I'll come back when it's finished. Okay, I've come to the end of this project, and came out pretty good. Got a nice coat of clear spray on there, and makes a nice display piece. If you'd like to get this pattern, remember you can click the link down below and go to my Etsy store. You'll get this pattern along with a bunch of other patterns which you'll probably find useful as well. Well, I hope you enjoyed this project. Thank you for watching.